My wife called my daughter a stranger and said she didn't sign up to be a stepmom. Now our marriage might not survive this mess. Lily, 15F, was in a car accident when I was 25. Her mom and I were never in a relationship. It was a one-night thing, but we've always had a friendly and respectful co-parenting setup. Over the years, we even became decent friends. For the past few years, my daughter's been living in Europe with her mom and stepdad, but now she wants to come back. She doesn't feel comfortable there anymore and misses her family and her old friends. On top of that, Lily never fully picked up the language, and even though she's been trying, it's still tough for her. She feels isolated because, let's be real, there's a big difference between casually speaking your native language and trying to make friends from scratch in a foreign one. I had a long conversation with her mom, and we both agreed that it might be best for Lily to come live with me for a while. Her old bedroom is currently my home office, but it's not a big deal. I can easily turn it back into her space. We didn't set anything in stone because I wanted to talk to my wife first. I was honestly sure she'd be fine with it, since we've talked about this exact possibility a few times over the years. Turns out, I was completely wrong. My wife doesn't want Lily to move in. To give some context, my wife and Lily have never really spent time together. They've only met in person once, and that was at our wedding when I managed to save enough to fly Lily over. That was also the last time I saw her in person because, frankly, international flights aren't cheap. My wife and Lily do occasionally say hi during my daily video calls with her, but it's always short and polite. Lily also talks to her little brother, our toddler, and they actually have a cute bond, even if it's only through a screen. My wife said Lily wouldn't feel comfortable living with strangers. I told her that we're her family, not strangers. My wife snapped back that she and our son aren't really Lily's family because they barely know her. That hurt more than I expected. Our son is literally Lily's brother, and it pissed me off that she brushed that aside. Our toddler genuinely loves his big sister, even if they've only ever interacted on video calls. That argument spiraled fast. I told my wife, plain and simple, that my daughter will always come first. That's just reality. My kids will always be my top priority, and my wife knew about Lily long before we got married. This isn't some surprise from my past. My wife got defensive and said having Lily here would change the entire dynamic of our house. She said she never signed up to be a stepmom and that having a stepdaughter living across the ocean is very different from having her here every single day. I told her, no one's asking her to step up and play stepmom. I've always been the one who took care of Lily, and that's not going to change. Back when Lily still lived in the country, she used to stay with me for weeks or even months at a time. I handled everything from cooking to school stuff to bedtime. I'm not dumping any of that on my wife. I've been a single dad before, and I know how to take care of my own kid. I cook, I clean, I handle our son whenever my wife works late or wants to go out with friends. We've always split parenting pretty equally when it comes to our toddler, and I see no reason why Lily moving in would change that. I admit I lost my temper and said something I shouldn't have. I told my wife that if she hated the idea of Lily living here so much, she was welcome to get herself a hotel room. Obviously, that didn't go over well. The fight escalated, and now my wife isn't talking to me at all. She's still dead set against Lily moving in. The bottom line is, my daughter has every right to live here if she wants to. But my wife keeps digging in her heels, and I know we're going to keep butting heads about this. I'm not abandoning my daughter, not now, not ever. For the record, my wife always knew that Lily used to stay with me regularly when she was younger. Before she moved abroad, she'd spend whole weekends or even months at my place. We talked, years ago, about what would happen if Lily ever needed to move back, and my wife was totally fine with it back then. Now she admits she just assumed Lily would stay abroad permanently because her mom's business was doing well there. Also, just in case anyone's wondering, Lily knows about Reddit, so I've tweaked a few minor details to keep this anonymous. Edit. I've been glued to the comments for the last 2 hours, and I honestly have a lot to think about. Thank you to everyone, both the supportive and the critical voices. It's helping me see some things I didn't fully consider. But please, try not to be too harsh. Because I'm a real person, I figured I'd jump in and add some clarification since a lot of people had questions, especially about the conversations I had with my wife. We've had plenty of discussions about this situation because my wife always knew that Lily used to stay with me regularly before she moved abroad. My wife admitted that, in her mind, she always assumed Lily would just keep living with her mom permanently. To answer another comment, no, she didn't say that when we got married. Back then, when I brought up the possibility of Lily moving back, she said she was fine with it. But now, she's admitting she never actually thought it would happen. Commenter, if your wife doesn't change her mind, do you see your marriage lasting? OP. To be honest, no, not really. Even though I love my wife, my daughter already feels unwelcome and out of place at her school. There's no way I'm going to let her feel like that in her own home too. Commenter, what about the child you two share? OP. My son will never be without a stable home. That's non-negotiable. Ideally, I want to work things out with my wife, but if she keeps rejecting the idea of Lily living with us and we end up separating, I'll make sure my wife and son have a safe and comfortable place to live. I'd push for 50-50 custody, just like I used to have with Lily, or we'd work out some kind of co-parenting arrangement. I'll do the exact same thing I did with Lily. See him every day, be involved, and take care of him. I would never drag our son into adult problems or stress him out over this. Commenter, not picking sides here, but if your wife leaves, your son is going with her. Everyone's screaming, put your daughter first, but you might end up with Lily full-time and only get 50-50 with your son. They're not going to take a toddler away from a mother you say is a good mom. You're in a much tougher spot than you think. Opie, yeah, I've thought about that too. Co-parenting with Lily's mom was always really easy. We've been friends for years, and we never fought about custody or anything. But with my wife, I honestly have no idea how co-parenting would look if we broke up over this. It's not something I want to think about, but it's definitely crossed my mind. Update 1, May 15th, 2024. I decided to delete my original post because some weirdo started spamming my private messages from multiple accounts. I don't know if there's a way to put my account on private, but I don't use Reddit much, so I'd rather just post my updates here where I can lock the comments if needed. The post will still be here if anyone cares. First off, I want to clarify something. I'm from a developing country, and where I live, buying a plane ticket is ridiculously expensive. If I wanted to visit Lily, I'd have to pay for myself, my wife, and our son, and that's just not realistic for us financially. I agreed to let Lily's mom move her abroad because, like any parent, I wanted her to have better opportunities. That doesn't make me a bad dad, but I guess people who've always lived comfortably might not understand that. The last time I could afford plane tickets was to fly Lily here for my wedding. Not everyone has the privilege of just booking flights whenever they want. Lately, I've been thinking a lot, especially after reading so many comments. Even though most people seem to agree with me, I can admit I was wrong in how I handled some things. I apologized to my wife for the way I spoke to her, even if I was angry. That doesn't make it okay. At the same time, I told her I really hate when she shuts down and ignores me instead of talking things out. The part that hurt me the most was her saying Lily and our son aren't really family. That was cruel, and I told her that directly. She apologized too. She said she was angry and said things she regrets. I made it absolutely clear, Lily is coming to live with me. No one has the right to tell me my daughter can't live with me. Not morally, not legally, not anyone. Legally, I'm fully responsible for making sure both my daughter and my son have a stable home. When my wife tried to argue with me about it, I flipped the question on her. I asked how she'd feel if we ever split up, and my future girlfriend refused to let our son stay with me just because she didn't sign up for it. I asked if she'd respect a man who ditches his kids for a woman over a man who puts his children first. Would she even feel safe being married to someone who could turn his back on his own kids that easily? She said no, of course not. She told me she knows how much I love my children and that she hates men who abandon their kids. One of the things that made her want to have a child with me in the first place was seeing how I stayed connected to Lily, even though she lived so far away. I made time for her every day, no matter what. My wife always saw that. Plus, we've always been good at splitting the responsibilities at home, which is something we were proud of. That's when I asked her the real question. If she knows all of that, why is she so against Lily living with us? She hesitated for a bit, and then finally admitted it. She's jealous of my daughter. To be honest, I'd already suspected it. There were little signs here and there. Like on Lily's birthday a couple years ago, I sent money to her mom so she could buy Lily this dress she'd been wanting for ages. It wasn't cheap, but I wanted her to have it. My wife just casually said, I guess you'll buy our son something just as expensive then? I let it slide because I thought it was just a weird, offhand joke. Looking back, I should have called it out right then. She told me straight up that she doesn't want Lily coming here and taking time and attention away from our son. That hit a nerve. I told her that if we had 2 biological kids together, my time would be divided between them too. That's literally what parenting is. It's not about one kid stealing attention from the other. It's about making sure both of them get what they need. I also reminded her that Lily isn't some rebellious, difficult teenager. She's a good kid. Having her here doesn't have to throw our whole routine into chaos. We ended up talking for hours. I apologized if the way I handled things made her feel unimportant or insecure, and I told her I really wanted to understand exactly what's been eating at her. I don't want this tension poisoning our marriage. We agreed to work on our communication, not just about Lily, but about everything. My wife admitted she knows her jealousy is wrong, and she's actually embarrassed by it. But she also said it's how she feels, even if she hates feeling that way. I told her straight up, those feelings aren't right, but ignoring them isn't the answer either. I suggested we see a therapist together so we can actually work through this properly. Because one thing is non-negotiable, I will not let Lily live in a house where she feels unwanted or unloved. That's not up for debate. After a lot of back and forth, my wife agreed. She said she doesn't like feeling this way about a teenage girl and knows it's unfair. She wants to work on herself and fix it. For the record, Lily and my wife have always been polite to each other during video calls. My wife would say hello, but that was about it. Looking back, I should have encouraged them to talk more, maybe even one-on-one, like how Lily sometimes calls her little brother directly. The thing is, Lily actually likes my wife. She calls her auntie, even though they barely know each other. That's why it kills me to think about how my wife really felt inside. I never want Lily to know that. To help break the ice, I suggested my wife learn how to play the game Lily and I always play together. That way they could play as a team and hopefully start bonding naturally. I know Lily would love that. They actually have a lot of similar interests, they just don't know it yet. My wife agreed. She said she loves me and wants to do this, not just for me, but for our son too. Here's the thing, if I left my wife, it would break up my son's home. He's my baby, and the absolute last thing I want is to drag him through adult drama. I love my wife. I want this to work. I want our whole family to work. And I'm willing to put in the effort. But I also made one thing 100% clear the very first time my wife treats Lily badly or makes her feel unwanted, that's it. No second chances. I told her that, and she said she understood. For now, I still haven't confirmed anything with Lily's mom about the exact date she's moving in. I want to make sure everything is set here first, including my wife's mindset. Since I need to get her room ready first, plus, I really want my wife and Lily to have a chance to get to know each other better. I brought all of this up during my last session with my therapist. He told me the best way forward would be to ease them into it slowly, letting them bond little by little before Lily actually moves in. Over the last 4 days, my wife and Lily have been talking a lot more. I even told Lily we could teach my wife how to play the online game we usually play together, and Lily was super into the idea. To my surprise, my wife seemed excited too. They've even started chatting about random stuff. A lot of it flies right over my head, but honestly, I'm just happy they actually have things to talk about. I know some people are probably going to call me an idiot for not divorcing my wife already, especially since so many comments told me I should. But life isn't as black and white as we argued, so let's split 50-50 custody and call it a day. I really think it was better for us to sit down and talk like adults instead of just blowing up our marriage. Seeing my wife open up to me and actually try to work on this, that's worth something to me. I'd rather give this a real chance and hope that one day my wife can see Lily not just as my daughter, but as part of her family too, maybe even a friend, if she lets herself. Commenter, your wife is going to treat your daughter badly. Opie, no one can predict the future like that. But I can work to make sure that future doesn't happen. Right now, I'm trying to stay positive. My wife has never actually treated Lily badly, not once. And Lily knows that if she ever feels uncomfortable, she can talk to me, her mom, or her stepdad anytime. We've always taught her to speak up if something doesn't feel right. Plus, Lily has a sharp tongue. If my wife ever made a comment out of line, Lily wouldn't just sit there and take it. I'm not going to force them to be best friends, either. I want their relationship to develop naturally. No pressure, no fake bonding. And just to clarify, I'm not planning to turn Lily into some free babysitter, like a lot of comments suggested. Both Lily and her little brother have every right to just live here, not be stuck with some role they didn't ask for. Edit. Oh, and for those asking, no, my wife didn't secretly post her own side of the story here. I don't know why people keep saying that. She doesn't even use Reddit. Edit 2. Also, I have no idea what's up with these weird spam messages I've been getting. Someone, or some bot, keeps sending me DMs offering help and advice, and they're all from brand new accounts made today. No clue who's behind it, but if it's some kind of prank, it's stupid. Just block me if you're that obsessed. Relevant comments and replies. Commenter, if your wife doesn't get over her jealousy, you're going to have to make a choice. Hopefully, since she admitted how awful what she said was, she'll actually grow from it. Opie. Yeah, I made it very clear to her that my #1 job is to protect my kids from anyone or anything. If her jealousy ever comes back and she starts making Lily feel unwanted, there's no third chance. That's the line. Commenter, would you feel comfortable leaving your daughter alone with your wife? Opie, right now, all their video calls are with me there. But if Lily ever wants to call my wife directly, I'd be totally fine with that. Lily is smart, and she's never been afraid to speak her mind. If anything made her uncomfortable, she'd tell me, her mom, or her stepdad immediately. Commenter, no, I mean once Lily moves in, would you be okay leaving them alone in the house? Opie, if my wife keeps showing the same openness and actually works on her relationship with Lily, then yes, I feel comfortable with it. That's the whole point of these video calls, to help them both feel comfortable with each other before we're all living under the same roof. Commenter, just because she's polite on video calls doesn't mean she'll be the same when Lily actually lives there. Opie, that's true, but it also doesn't mean she'll turn into a villain either. Neither of us can predict the future. All I can do is focus on creating the best possible situation for everyone in my family. I'm not walking into this with blinders on. I know there's work to do. But I also want to believe that people can grow, especially when they actually want to. I trust that my wife genuinely wants to work on herself, not just for me, but for herself and for everyone in this house. She's been open to professional help, and I think that's a big step forward. Commenter, your wife needs to know she can talk to you if she's uncomfortable, but honestly, This probably won't end well. Opie, my wife knows she can talk to me about anything. Like I said before, we finally started having real, honest conversations, not just surface-level stuff. She's opened up to me about her feelings, even the ones she's ashamed of, and I appreciate that. We've had some tough talks, but they've been necessary. Update 2, June 23rd, 2024. I didn't really plan on posting another update, but I remembered I still have this account, so I figured, why not? Got a little free time while I'm watching my toddler, so here's a quick update. Right now, things between my wife and Lily are going really well. These days, my wife and Lily have even started doing video calls just to binge-watch shows together, ones they both like. They've even developed their own inside jokes that go completely over my head, but honestly, I take that as a good sign. Not gonna lie, I feel a little left out sometimes, kidding, mostly, but it's worth it to see them actually bonding. My wife has been seeing a therapist regularly, and so have I. We both want to work on ourselves, both individually and as a couple. My wife knows her jealousy towards Lily wasn't healthy, she admits that, and she's actively trying to unpack where it came from. A few weeks ago, she actually had a real heart-to-heart with Lily. She told her the truth, that she felt insecure and jealous, even though it wasn't fair. Lily was surprised, but she took it better than I expected. She accepted the apology and even told my wife that she understands how complicated feelings can be sometimes. I gave them space to talk alone that day so they could have a real conversation without me hovering, and after that, something shifted. They've definitely been closer ever since. Later, my wife told me that Lily said she'll always respect someone who's honest about their flaws and works to be better. That meant a lot to my wife, and I think it helped her let go of some of that guilt. Just to clear something up, a lot of people assumed I made this whole decision to bring Lily back without consulting my wife. That's not true at all. I didn't confirm anything with Lily's mom until my wife and I talked it through. And for those who keep calling Lily's mom my ex-wife, we were never a couple. Just co-parents who've always gotten along well. The whole process of bringing Lily back was paused specifically so my wife and daughter could get to know each other better first. But lately, my wife has actually been the one bringing up ideas for how to decorate Lily's room. She rejected all my ideas. Apparently, I'm too boring, and now she's having fun decorating the space with our toddler, who's ridiculously excited to finally meet his big sister in person. We still haven't locked down a specific date because Lily's mom is working on some issues with her school, and I need to make sure everything on my end is ready. But overall, everything's moving forward, step by step. Update 3, September 12th, 2024. Hey, I figured I'd drop one last update before I delete this account. Honestly, I don't see much point in keeping it anymore. Plus, Reddit has been an experience. Lily has been living with us for a few weeks now, and things are honestly going better than I could have hoped. My wife and Lily get along well, and our toddler is over the moon. He's so happy to finally have his sister here in real life instead of just on a screen. My wife has been working really hard on herself, and I see a real change in her, not just with how she treats Lily, but in how she communicates with me too. The biggest moment for me was when we picked Lily up at the airport. My wife was genuinely excited to see her, not in a fake, forced way, but like she was really happy. All those months of video calls and movie nights paid off, and it felt like they already had a bond before Lily even set foot in the house. The jealousy is gone. It's not perfect, of course, stuff like this takes time. But my wife is putting in the work, and I see it every day. Lily hasn't started school yet. We're waiting for the new school year, but we brought her over now because flights were only going to get more expensive. It was actually my wife who pointed that out and told me she felt ready for Lily to come, which honestly made me happier than I can even explain. For context, Lily had been living in a country in Asia. Beautiful place, very safe, but it was a tough adjustment for her. The language barrier was a constant struggle, and the bullying there was brutal, especially toward kids who weren't fluent. It broke my heart hearing about what she went through. She misses her mom sometimes, of course, but they text a lot. I try to spend as much time with her as possible to help her feel at home here. We visit family. She's met my wife's relatives, and we're just trying to make sure she feels fully part of the family. Overall, though, she seems genuinely happy to be back. She told me herself how much she missed her grandparents, her cousins, and even the small stuff like family BBQs. Everyone's happy to have her home again. My wife and I are doing great too. Therapy helped both of us a lot. Now, whenever something's bothering us, even if it's something small, we talk about it instead of bottling it up. I think the biggest lesson we learned is that you can't be afraid to talk about the ugly thoughts too. Everyone has them. What matters is whether you deal with them or let them fester. I love my wife, and I know she's a good person. Like anyone, she's had dark thoughts, but what makes her a good person is that she's not running from them anymore. She's facing them, and so am I. I love taking care of our kids, cooking for them, cleaning up after them, just being their dad. Sometimes it hits me that Lily is so independent now, and I don't have to do as much for her anymore, which is weird. In my eyes, she's still my little girl, but I'm also really proud of the person she's becoming. Anyway, sorry if this is a boring update. I know some people were probably expecting me to end up divorced, but this is where we're at. Luckily, it's a good place. Lily and my wife now have the kind of relationship I always hoped for. They're not forcing anything. They just genuinely get along. If they're happy, I'm happy.